How you guys doing? Back to do my fourth video here, basically. And number four, what I'm really going to try and concentrate on is awareness of fishing rivers and creeks. What I mean by that is being quiet is the most important thing, because you have to understand that when you're not there and not walking through the bush and making noise and your foot hitting the ground, that vibration goes right in and right through into the water. And you see so many guys, and it's like actually kind of hilarious. They come stomping up to the side of the creek, and they wonder why they're not catching nothing. Well, you don't do that, okay? Like I sort of said before in my first videos, and that is that finesse and being patient is so important. Like I say, when I walk down to a creek, I tippy toe, and then I get down on my hands and knees if I have to, depending on the pool or where I am. And sometimes just going in there and you've rustled things up a bit, you don't think you have, but trust me, when you're not there, it's dead quiet, and they're not feeling no vibrations or anything through the water, so they're comfortable. As soon as they hear this little thud or they feel that vibration on their lateral line, that's it. That's like putting the radar up for them. They're like, okay, what's going on? There's something wrong. Could be a predator, and obviously they want to be somebody's meal, so they're going to go hide in the bank or something on you. And you can throw the biggest worm and the most beautiful fly or whatever you want, and they're not going to hit it at all, because you've disturbed that little pool or little part of the stream. So being cat-like and being very patient, of just slowly walking up to your spot, kneeling down, crawling, whatever it takes. I tell you, I've crawled on that ground before, and knowing that there's a nice little brook trout in there, but if my shadow or any breaking of trees or noise or stuff, any type, anything, it's actually almost unbelievable how they can detect you. And because, like say, you're in their home, you're not at home. It's like you sitting in your living room watching TV and someone's screwing with the door handle. Well, you hear this little chat, and you're like, okay, you're alert to what's going on. You don't want these fish to be alert to anything. All you want them to do is be natural, which is laying there, looking around, looking for something to eat, because that's all they're interested in, is eating. They're not out playing basketball or baseball or doing anything. Their main concern is to keep themselves fed and to fatten up as much as they can. That's what their intelligence tells them, their intellect, or whatever you want to call it, to do. And you think you can fool a trout or whatever, you're out of your mind, because when it comes to them being in their home, they know their area and they know their home, they know their stream, they know different parts of the stream. In that way, they are very intelligent. When, like say, you go to a small area, a nice little pool, and you fish it and you catch 2 or 3 fish out of it, and you keep fishing and there's no more, well, those fish are all gone. So you've caught those 3 fish out of there. The next day, guarantee you, other fish during the night will go up into these areas and fill that void. And usually, like say, go back the next day and you'll catch a couple more fish. But again, overfishing a small area isn't good for yourself either, especially if you have these little spots, little places that you like to go alone, and you don't see many marks or footprints or anything along the way. Then you know that these fish are going to be very, very, very tight into the bank. If you're starting making noise and stuff, they're just going to zoom under there and hide there, and you'll never ever catch them. I don't care what you're using, unless you got a net. But stealth, that's definitely the word, to be a stealthy fisherman, especially on small creeks. Like say, in the bigger rivers is different, in some of the smaller creeks, when I get into the creek itself, like you say, you do not want that water rushing up against your legs. You want it coming from behind you. Walking in through the current makes a huge amount of noise and a huge amount of wakes in the water and things like that. So even when you're crossing creeks, like I said, I have specific spots where I will only cross, and not that it's probably not this maybe the easiest spot to cross or also, but it's also the spot where I'm not going to disturb any fish in the next pool. But again, as I was saying before, where I do some rock kicking and stuff like that when I go across, and I'll find that I'll pick up a few fish. So if I see a pond, nice little, not pond, but a little pocket of water in the stream where it's a little deeper, 6 feet deep or so, or something like that. You walk up to that very, very, very quietly, and as far as you can get away from that, like for casting, I may be 10-15 feet into the grass away from the edge of that and cast in. And sometimes you need to be that far away. Even line spook, people don't believe it, but I've seen line spook where I've dropped my line. I've seen the trout sitting there, and I drop my line in, and like say, it comes down into the water too fast or too hard without just naturally dropping. Those fish just gone, like in a second. And you're going to catch them for another half hour or so because they're on to you. They're on to you big time. So being stealthy is very important. But like I say, when you get into the bigger rivers and you're fishing for the bigger fish, that's not as much as a problem. But if you've ever gone in the spring and you're walking up down the creek looking for fish, and you don't have to be very far away, and you see them scoot off, and you're going, well, how do they see me, or whatever the case is? Well, their view is totally different than ours. When they look up from the water pattern, basically the deeper they are, the bigger the area is going to be that they can see outwards, and you're basically looking at a circle in a sense. So keeping away from that creek edge and tossing your fly in, even if your fly line is in a bit of grass and stuff like that, as long as your tippet, that 9 feet of it, is in that pool and in that water, and just don't even play with it. Just let it go and let it stop. Let it go to a spot where naturally food or whatever the case is that's coming down the creek stops there. Now I may just stop, notice my line is finally stopped or whatever, and if I kind of look over, I can see it's probably only in 3, 4, maybe 5 inches of water, and it's just sitting there. Well, I'll leave it sit there, and I might just sort of even give it a little jig, basically, because the trout know that food comes around and ends up there. But if it's something funny that they're detecting that's keeping them away, then like I say, give them time. Like I say, you got all the time. You got all day long to fish, but take your time, because you're not taking your time, you're not catching fish. There's no doubt about it. When I started fishing, I fished with an older gentleman, and it would take me, say, an hour to walk down the creek. It'd take him 3 hours to walk down the creek. He'd come back with 5 fish, I'd come back with 1 fish. Why? Because he took his time, and he fished all the pools and all the different little spots. Going in there bushwhacking is not going to catch fish, trust me. So this segment, I'm going to leave it as it is. Just, being stealth is so important. Vibration is such a bad thing for you and the fish, because as soon as they feel that vibration, they're history, and you ain't catching them, trust me. I've tried for hours in one little spot, seeing fish, and but once they've seen you, you're beat. The game's over. Cash in. See you later. Bye bye. That's the end of it. Spooking fish is, like say, just one of those things that, again, like I say, we've been known from 50 years ago about that kind of stuff. And I don't know if the younger people today are taught this or whatever the case is, but stuff I've seen on the internet, there's not much to really tell people that are new into fly fishing or even just creek fishing with a rod, that being stealth is so important, and being quiet. And actually it makes it sort of a game too, just like you're sort of creeping up and you're being, like say, a predator, and that's what you are. You are a predator to those fish, and those fish know there's predators around that want to take them down. So understanding that is key, and it's probably one of the most important things about fishing that I've ever learned. So I'll leave it at that. Next segment that I'm going to go into, especially about spring fishing and locations, I'm going to give you some of my own spots that I go to. I don't mind sharing this. I know, some people are so top secret. Oh, this is my favorite fishing. I don't tell anybody. Blah 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 blah. Oh, you're a goof. Let other people fish it. Let other people have fun. You're not there every day. They're not going to take all the fish. Trust me, there's thousands of fish in these creeks and rivers and that. But the guy who goes out all day long catches nothing. He's probably a stomper, and and he gets going for a half hour, gets bad attitude, and just starts crashing through the water. But he's just like a bull going through a China store. So fly fishing is a thing of patience, and patience is a good thing. And someone like me, I'm a pretty hyper guy, but when I get to my creek, I mellow out real quick, and learn to slow things down really, tenfold basically, and take my time. So thanks again for watching, and I'll come back for some more tips on my next video, and I hope you've learned something, and I hope I can help you out in the future as well. So take care and fish on.